Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today I'm pretty excited to present you my first impressions on something that is called Convoy. It was available over the course of the weekend, and it was pretty exciting for me to check it out, to test it out. What it is, I shall explain in the beginning. What I think is good and maybe not so good about it is another point. And then furthermore, I want to give you some thoughts on how I would improve it, how I would actually make up some other testing series over the course of the next few weekends, because why not? So I think it is very exciting that Gaijin actually made it such in a way that they introduced as a testing bed a game mode where there is no cap circle whatsoever. And this is pretty exciting. So what is now this Convoy system? Well, first of all, you could select to play it in the event tab, and you were limited from battle rating 1.0, so reserve tier, to battle rating 2.3. That included some of the tier 2 ships. And it was in that way very exciting, as there were a lot of variations in terms of your lineups, including planes, to which I will come later on. And so there were very different outcomes, despite on paper one side having the upper hand, and that is the defending team. Now, why is the defending team in the upper hand? Well, if you look at it, both sides have equal amount of spawns, equal amount of players, and equal amount of access to planes with the spawn point system, which is equal to the one that you are used to from normal ship RB. So one side had the convoy, and that was the defending team, and they spawned practically in front of the enemy team on their way to the ships to destroy them. Now, how do you actually win this? Well, as the defending team, you actually had to make sure only one ship had to survive out of the four. It didn't really matter which one it was, even if it was the K2 in this case. You could win if the convoy crosses the map once and reaches its destination point. As the attacking team, obviously, if you manage to drop some torpedoes or drop some bombs from planes on it and destroy all four merchant ships and the K2, then you would win instantly. And so I think the way that it played out, very often the defending team had a very easy task of just going in. And the map design helped the defending team, but it was not in such a way that I would say that the attacking team was in a massive disadvantage. Obviously, you could play around a little bit with the settings, with the spawn locations, with the amount of spawns and the amount of players, but that is a bit far stretched. So here we can see in the replay that one G5 actually managed to slip through in the very beginning. The battle is barely 3 minutes old, launched a torpedo, and then goes for the middle merchant ship. Here is a little bit of a replay bug, because it actually looks like it would slip behind the K2, which it actually does, but it shows a detonation. The torpedo actually continues on its way successfully to destroy the merchant ship. So the very first gameplay example that I have for you was the fastest victory as the attackers, and I think it is worth an explanation, because as you can see on the minimap where our spawns are, they are a bit closer to the route on the south, and also the ships go from the north to the south, and so it is for me pretty logical that you try to intercept them in the middle or at the end, where the torpedoes that you shoot at the ships, hopefully, actually don't have to catch up with the merchant ships and the K2, although they're not going at the fastest of speed. I guess it's like 20 kilometers per hour, something in the region of of that speed. And then to just simply get the torpedoes in their way so that they are actually going for the ships. The ships, as you can see, go from point to point. Overall, it's 5 points, and then they do very slight course changes, and if you shoot a torpedo at very long range, it just might miss despite the very best of leads, because the little change correction. So I think this is very cool, and I think this is very good in this way. What the enemy team absolutely failed here to do is building up a proper defense, and they left the south completely defenseless. Just a handful of ships were there, like 2 or 3. We gunned them down easily, and here I am in the British torpedo boat, and it is pretty cool to play with this thing. It has 4 torpedoes and a 40mm in the front, so the dark class FPB 1102 is very good for this. It's fast, it's maneuverable, 4 torpedoes as I mentioned, and also 40mm that is just set up to be successful in just shooting up the enemy's ships and then dropping torps into the direction of the enemy merchant ships or the convoy in general. The match here is relatively small, so the smaller the match, the bigger the advantage of the attackers actually get. But if you have a proper battle, then we actually come to one of the problems. If you look at the minimap where I am, I'm very close to the enemy's spawn, and I would put the spawn of the enemies behind the convoy, so here in the 1 or 2 line, because if they would go through, they would automatically defend the convoy at short ranges. And so a big disadvantage, which is down to the game mechanics, is that if now something spawns next to me, it is also protected by protection from the spawn protection, and I cannot do anything else but receive damage and trying to tank it. So this is pretty lame in this respect if you are on the attacking team. I had it once that we had like brought 4 or 5 ships attacking through it, and then an SF-40 spawned in front of us, and you can imagine how this turned out. So this is now where the first torpedo hits the first merchant ships. You can see the points drop by a quarter. I tried to actually take out here the turrets on the K2, which I actually did it, and then the torpedo hits home. I tried to get in here my depth charges on one of the merchant ships, and as you can see, they are actually capable of damaging me with 20mm fire. They actually take out here my 40mm placement in the front. I'm out of torpedoes, so maybe I should have not wasted them early on. And then funnily enough, out of all the things that gets me, it is a well, just wait for it. Yeah, it was a torpedo from a G5 fired from the back that just spawned behind me. So despite all this, this was the fastest victory. The battle barely took like 5 minutes, and this is where the defending team made a huge mistake. And I think that is very important to realize, that as the defenders, you need just some ambush positions. You need to advance, but you don't need to push into the enemy's spawn. It makes no sense, because then if somebody is escaping you, you have no way of catching up to him. And I think this is now where we come to the planes. So as you can see, I'm taking here the British Premium Catalina. It has some of the best torpedoes in the game, the Mark 13 from 1944, and so you can drop them at rather high altitude. The angle of attack is not so important, and also from very high altitude. This is not the last ship, it's the K2. It's about to actually reach its point of destination. You can see here the furious defensive fire. It looks really cool, and I know that I'm going down, but this plane can tank a bit, and then the torpedo hits the bow and I one-shot it. And there you can see this was actually now the mission maker reward. Terror of the Ocean, because previously I did a lot of damage in the dark class with the 40mm. That was actually another battle, obviously, and that is now the result, which was pretty nice. It was also a pretty short battle. But when it comes to aircraft, then I think that it is a very interesting concept, because one side actually needs to focus more on damage dealers in terms of attackers or fighters with bombs, and bombers with torpedoes or bombs, which is very interesting, especially at this battle rating, because there are a surprising amount of bombers with very special payload. It begins with the Heinkel 111 that already can carry a single Fritz X. Then also the British Wellington with a 4,000 pound bomb, and many other bombers that include some bombers with 4 1,000 pound bombs. There are numerous planes that can easily one strike the entire convoy, and this makes for a very interesting concept in defending the convoy, because fighters are in this case very interesting. So there is the asymmetry in the lineups, there is the asymmetry in playstyle, and I think this makes it very very exciting to play. I had tons of fun, and it was one of the times where I think that the planes were actually not that game damaging, but a very exciting factor in it, because they were more focused on the patrol, on the convoy rather than on the patrol boats. And so the patrol boats had to defend versus torpedo boats, versus gunboats, and versus aircraft, but had support from the convoy a little bit. They had obviously a high amount of support from fighters, which were very valuable. And so the single player could make a very, very important game. And it's a really nice play. And so you had a huge impact on the outcome of the game. So the absolute balance was given through the mixed lineup of the nations. In a nation versus nation setup, I think there are nations that are very much better at defending than attacking. I think the Americans and the British are very good at attacking because they have the highest amount of torpedoes and the most amount of torpedo boats with 4 torpedoes in particular, whereas the Russians and the Germans are very good at defending because they have the Russians have their armored river patrol boats with the long range capabilities. They don't have to be that fast because the convoy itself is not really that fast either, so they can stick with the convoy. They can actually intercept the enemy patrol boats very precisely. The same goes for a lot of the German ships. If you look at the R301s, if you look at the S100 series, and of course the SF40 leichte and schwere in calm seas are very, very important, and they're also very good versus anti-aircraft purposes. The same is here reflected with the lineups through the planes, or including the planes, and that makes it for a very good lineup. So it is kind of also good in a way that you could not choose between the defending and the attacking team depending on your lineup. So you had to implement a little bit of variety to be suited for either case, and that was really cool. Now, again, what would I improve? What would be changes that I would come up with when you think about how it plays out? So the first thing that I want to be changed is the spawn for the defending team. And now here follows my explanation how precisely I want it to be done. First of all, I want that the spawn initially is like it is here initially. So the first spawn for your ship doesn't change, but the second and third spawn should be within the convoy for various different reasons. First of all, as the battle progresses, the appearance of planes is more frequent, and so you automatically should be able to defend more actively the convoy from aircraft. So this is actually then a bit of a good thing for the defending team. The second thing is, if the enemy team managed to battle its way through your lines, and a little bit of example shall be shown here in a few minutes, and then you spawn right in their face and still have spawn protection, that is a massive, massive imbalanced advantage for the defending team in this case, and that should not be the case. This is pretty discouraging for even trying to go through the middle or the north. Now for the defenders, obviously it is very important to also on this map, for example, watch the southern route and to react here to threats. For the attackers, maybe some of your gunboats should occupy here the enemy team and just bind their forces, while some of the faster, more nimble, small targets and torpedo carriers should go through the southern route and then attack the convoy frontally. So there is this. So the spawns initially should change. The first spawn, like it is right now, I have no problem with this, but all succeeding spawns, the second and third for your ship, should be within the convoy. Also, it has the nice side effect to allow you to keep up with it. So if you think, okay, now I need a lot of firepower, a lot of gunfire power for short range engagements, you can actually spawn in a slower ship like the Isle class and the Flower class from the British, and also some of the river patrol boats from the Russians, and also obviously the SF40 leichte and schwere, which are pretty slow, so that they don't have to try to keep up with the convoy, or they automatically keep up with the convoy but don't have to catch up. That's what I want to say. So you can already see, even with those little nice changes, it would play out massively. So here I now get whittled down by the enemies, and yeah, I then respawn, and then you can see why this is so important to have this change within the convoy and not in front of the enemy's pathway towards the spawn. So here I now got gunned down after 5 kills. I pushed the enemy a bit back, and now I respawn. So let's have a look what happens. Here we go. So I see on the minimap there's some action going on. I turn around and hello there. There is now an S-100 that made its way, and I'm spawning behind him. He has no clue that I'm here. His bow is saturated, but I can shoot his broadside, and there he goes. He made all the long way, and I spawned right behind him and just gunned him down with impunity, more or less. And I don't think that this is very encouraging. This is very discouraging for the attacking team. And yeah, one of the signs of big imbalance that works in a way into the defending team, or the defending team's favor. The next thing that comes to my mind is making the convoy bigger, and the first attempt that I would make is doubling the size of the convoy, so 6 merchant ships and 2 or even 3 escorts. And then making therefore the battle longer, so the attacking team has more chances and more time to launch multiple attack runs. The same goes here for the air battle, and also as well the attacking team having like 10% more players or 15-20% more players, making up for the disadvantage of having multiple things to fulfill, whereas the defending team is just occupied by defending against aircraft and patrol boats in order to deny them the launch of bombs, rockets and torpedoes. So there is this. The other thing that I would love to see is making higher battle rating ships possible, up to a battle rating of 4.0. However, there are certain ships that I would actually not want to see in the game, and those are ships like the Albatros, such as the Project 159, or furthermore the Project 206, the Project 206M. You know, such ships are really more damaging than good for this test, because they are overall imbalanced in a fight versus the patrol boats and even against some of the destroyers. Very interesting would be to see how an MZ-1 or a Type M1943 would make as defensive units. So I think that would be really, really cool. The same goes for the Russian river patrol boats. I mean, try to gun down an MBK PR-186 or the MBK 161, or hell, even the MBK PR-186, PR-191 and so forth. There are multiple examples of ships that are really good at defense. The same goes for the British Isle class and Flower class. They are really good at defending, I guess. Long range capabilities, they can soak up the damage, so there is that. So if we summarize this, I want for the second and third spawn, the spawn for the defending team to be within the convoy. Then I want to test out bigger convoy battles that last longer, battles that are actually a bit more imbalanced for both sides, so that the attacking team has then access to more players and therefore more respawns. So I want to test and experiment a little bit with the dynamic, and it is this new dynamic in this game mode that I'm so excited about. Look, this is now the very, very important part, if you're still with me after nearly 20 minutes of rambling. I think this deserves a massive thumbs up from me towards Gaijin. Yes, this was great to play. It was not perfect, but there are certain things that can be done about it to switch the advantage to one or the other side, and to make it balanced, yet fun, yet exciting, yet not boring fighting around the capture zone. To include here a game mode with a moving objective that does not require you to capture a point. is something more or less unheard of, and what we previously saw only in RRB, which is also criminally neglected, by the way, despite the new upcoming jets and supersonic stuff and missiles. That's just more of the same. How it plays out is still the same. You kill all the enemies. And so this is obviously a part here, but it's not all. And it's not about a capture zone. And to play around and make tactical decisions, how you can destroy this convoy, how you can get into range of this convoy, how to defend it actively from both aircraft and also obviously ships, being able to launch their torpedoes and drop the bombs, you name it. This is what I love to see. This is what I want to see more of. And how can you actually bring more people into it? Well, just play with the event tab here a little bit and say, hey, why not just simply give the players that participate in this battle 50% more RP and 100% more civil lines by default, or 50% more civil lines and 100% more RP. I think this is like simulating your premium account for non-premium players. And that is already a good idea. I've seen this in the past. It's nothing completely new, okay? So why not do it here and give now the ships a bit more, reason to play them. And also different ships might do better in this role and just might do better in attacking and or defending the convoy. So this gets already a big thumbs up. Probably the last idea that I had was, changing the convoy by default. Either give both sides a convoy like we saw like in the first test 2 years ago. That would be really interesting. Although I think only bigger teams would make sense here for both sides. And in other news, maybe make the AI units different. Maybe, let there be a heavy cruiser being escorted by destroyers and then the patrol boats attack here. Or you make even a carrier the main objective, being not just a launching platform for maybe AI planes, but also real players. That would be cool as hell, man. Can you imagine there being a carrier being escorted by destroyers and being very difficult to torp, but at the same time being a big threat for the attacking team? But then the attacking team has maybe heavier units, or even an AI attack unit like a heavy cruiser by itself that you in return need to protect from just being torped or bombed. That would be something that you really can think through and just can imagine what there is potential for different setups. I would love to see this. This is something that I'm really excited about it. And this is just the first impressions. This is not having played hundreds of games in it to see the fine nuances of gameplay and how to abuse the system, which is always a characteristic of new game modes. But listen, this is exciting. This is a big chance. This is something that I want to actually test out further. And again, Gaijin, please don't let this be end like enduring confrontation where we were all excited about this in the beginning and then nothing happened to it. That would be just a bit of a shame. So that's it for me today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm very excited to read the comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this, what ideas you would come up with, and or if this is just pointless and boring for you. But then again, why? I think this is a good point of, spading your low tier ships and boats and experimenting with attacking higher battle rating ships or merchant ships. This is something that has a lot of potential, and on this note I want to end the video. Again, give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and don't forget to comment in the comment section, and we'll see each other on the ways and in the skies of War Thunder.